ending. So kick back and listen, it'll make your grin. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Yeah, yeah.
Well, greetings, one and all. Pilgrims Grey Chronicles here with your Wednesday night show already. The week is going by super quick. Can you believe it's already hump day? I can't. It's gone by in a blur. And so, as the winding, ever going on road wanders into the bizarro countryside of the world that we live in, we have your wonderful emails, listener comments, and stuff you send in, just like our boys sing at the beginning of the show. And so we got quite a bit of feedback this week, and I just choose basically from random here, because between emails, comments, and other things that get sent in, I kind of have to pick and choose now, and but I still take time to try to read every one of them, and some I can respond to, and some I cannot, and so I just kind of do what God kind of leads me to do, and but I'll do my best, but there's only so much time in a day, right? And but I do try to make that a priority. So, we have, as a first comment tonight on our Kane to the Committee of 300. If you have not watched that yet, please do so, because we'll be picking up with that series this Monday. We've gone 2 weeks where I had an interview with Jeremy Stone, and then we did the Remember the Liberty, because it is about that time, the anniversary of it roughly. I didn't do it on the day of it. I believe it was a week prior to that. It was, I think the Liberty was attacked June 8th, 1967, or thereabouts. And so, anyway, it's just, we have what's going on over there now. And then, anyway, we'll get into it, because there's been a couple of comments, and I'll delve into it with that. But anyway, first comment is just simply brilliant with 3 hearts. And that is from Anya Famel or Farnell. I don't know. I don't have my reading glasses on. I'm getting older now, as you could tell. Oh, that's another thing. I'm trying only to do the Riverside video recordings of the podcast when necessary, like when I'm doing an interview with somebody, even though I have this really cool snazzy intro video for it that we made with AI, where, the lightning flashes at the beginning, and, guys running to get inside the inn, Pilgrims Grey Inn, and the band is singing and little people are dancing and all that other stuff in the video, if you have not seen it. Here's the problem. It takes like 3.5 times longer using Riverside and video to compile it all. I mean, it's like, it becomes a day-long thing. And until the show grows enough to where I can leave my job, or I retire, or something along those lines, I'm going to have to do primarily audio, because I just don't have time. If I'm going to study and look into things and read what I need to read and dig into what I need to dig into and write what I need to write and still work a job 50 hours a week and, love my wife, take care of our farm animals, help take care of my mom, who's now 80. And, my dad passed away 2 Father's Days ago. And so, for those of you who have not seen my music video, where I played one of our songs. It's an instrumental guitar piece that I did, but it was supposed to just be for the album The 12s, but every time I play it, it just reminds me of my dad maybe journeying to heaven for some reason. So I made a Father's Day video of it. If you want to watch it, it's on the YouTube channel. It'll eventually be a song that's on Spotify when I'm done with it, on the album, which would be out in the fall. So, and for those of you who don't know, we already have one album out. Our band is Pilgrims Grey, and the first album was called Elevensies, and it is a concept album that tells a story about the Grey Wanderer or Pilgrim who gets an Ezekiel vision from beginning to end throughout the song, where he is seeing what's going on behind the scene in the spirit world and what's going on and how it affects this world and trying to warn people. So if you've not heard it, you're welcome to go listen to it. In fact, when you go to our YouTube channel, if you're looking at our main page, there's a song that kicks in, and it's the last song on the album, with our female singer singing it, Shay McGonigal. Anyway, so brilliant is the first comment, and again, thank you, Anya. I really appreciate that, because we do take time and effort to research. I bounce things off my wife because I think she's very smart and discerning, and it helps me to be smart and discerning, and we talk about these kind of things all the time. In fact, very often I find out about certain things because of her and her own reading and studying and research that she does. So she's great. All right, so next comment here on our interview Tartaria, SLS, and Seabor video, which was probably our last Wednesday night video, where we discussed those issues from comments. It says here, this is kind of a long comment. All New Age derives from Lucis Trust, or Lucifer Trust, a money fund sourced directly from the United Nations, Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, and Ledbetter, which later on also discovered Krishnamurti as a child pedo, were all part of the same plot to make Hinduism, theosophy, and Eastern doctrines palatable to the Western man. Alan Watts himself, an admirable philosopher, was a CIA agent. So was Castaneda. I'm assuming he's talking about Carlos Castaneda. By the way, he reveals this himself in a video with Timothy Lear and Allen Ginsberg. All spiritual philosophy or counterculture is Luciferian at root, except the gospel. The former are occult. The gospel is open for everyone, for he is the light of the world. Enjoying it as usual, as am I. I enjoy your comments as much as you enjoy listening, because it gives me, I like hearing what people think. And I don't, and when I say that, I also like hearing what people think who disagree. I like to hear all comments. I might disagree right back with you, and that's okay. That's the way the world works. But I'll never be impolite or rude, unless you are first, and then I bite back. So, all right. Anyway, I think you nailed it. The only thing I would add to that is I wouldn't say all New Age. It obviously, you could make a case that it goes all the way back to the 200 Fallen Watchers, or Grigori, or Anunnaki, whatever you want to call them, the rebellious little g gods, rebellious angels, God's sons, whatever you want to call them, that initially came here and taught us things that we weren't ready for in our current condition. Right? So, good call, Maximal 1240. Fantastic. Keep them coming. Keep commenting and keep watching. And this next one is from our Jeremy Stone interview. When I say these things, I'm saying the comment was on that particular video in regards to it. And I.B. Nichols, I'm sure that's an abbreviation for maybe, I don't know. Anyway, says, thank you so much, both of you. Well, thank you right back for listening and taking time to comment. I cannot stress enough, and I know I mention it every Wednesday night, but it's because I'm thankful. I'm thinking thankful thoughts. thankful words come out of my mouth, and it's because I'm thankful. And really, I'm glad that you joined and listened, and hopefully you will continue to, because Jeremy and I agree on a great many things, not everything, but like he probably would not agree with me on the pre-tribulation rapture. And I don't know that he is a fellow flat earther. Probably not. I don't know. But that's okay. When I did the video podcast on JT's mixtape, disagreeing with what he said about the little season, and how he spoke about people who disagree with his interpretation of what Jesus was referring to in this generation. It's like, okay, there's a disagreement there, but there's a lot of things that I agree with JT, and we're both brothers in Christ, so it just is what it is. But I think we should, this generation of people needs to learn to be able to communicate and not get so bent out of shape, And sometimes a discussion can be heated back and forth, and iron sharpening iron, but at the end of the day, go out and have a cup of coffee together and let it go, right? I don't ever stay angry at anyone. I have no right to, Plus, there's some passages out of Scripture that just haunt me, like, the one where Jesus says, you don't forgive others, your Father in heaven will not forgive you either. Now, I don't necessarily think that's a salvation thing necessarily. It could just mean that as a Christian, if you're not forgiving people, then be prepared for discipline and things to happen to you because you're not under his protection, because you don't forgive others. I think a lack of forgiveness is a pretty solid sign you've got real issues, though. So let's move on to the next comment, which is also on our interview with Satan's Little Season, Tartaria and the Sea Boar. That was our past Wednesday night. Those are the things that we brought up and discussed. So this person, it looks like Greek writing or possibly Indonesian. I can't make out the name. But they say, there was no Jesus. It was just a cargo cult that arose among Indo-Iranians, ancestors of Europeans, who came to Lesser Scythia, European peninsula. All these things and symbols are connected with astronomical events and objects that were connected with the life of the Scythians, or Sakas. Try to look for information and compare dates. All this is just a fiction for brainwashing and inciting hatred in people with a low IQ. Okay, I responded and then he replied. So here was my response. I said, yes, the old Jesus with was a Scythian, wait, what is wrong with my mouth? A Scythian sky myth for dumb people routine, because nearly 2,000 years of fulfilled prophecy, eyewitness martyrdom, and manuscript evidence should all take a backseat to an anonymous internet post that conflates Indo-Iranians, cargo cults, and astro-symbology without citing a single source. Look, if you're going to dismiss Jesus as fiction, you'll need something more substantial than a vague compare the dates and Scythian sky symbols theory. The Roman census, the crucifixion under Pontius Pilate, the 500 eyewitnesses Paul mentions, the Dead Sea Scroll alignments, the martyrdom of nearly every original follower. That's not cargo cult behavior. That's conviction unto death. Also, if brainwashing only works on low IQs, you might want to double-check which side relies on unproven astro theory loops to feel enlightened. Now, you don't have to believe yet, but at least be honest. Jesus changed time, split history, fulfilled prophecy, and lives on despite endless attempts to bury him under the sands of revisionism, and he's not done yet. And so, his reply was a lengthy one, of course. So, he says, I will not go into details and particulars, but I can say that Christianity and Freemasonry are connected by a common origin. The main goal of these organizations is to appropriate someone else's symbols, architecture, and heritage, and to compose an absurd story explaining presence of these symbols in these groups or organizations. The 2,000-year-old history of Christianity is a fiction of above-mentioned organizations. In history of European Peninsula, Scythia Minor, there are no peoples that existed for 2,000 and were Christians. All this is very easily revealed and exposed regarding Jesus, Indo-Europeans, Indo-Iranians, who came to Scythia Minor, which became Europe, borrowed traditions of Scythians, or Sakas, cattle breeders. But since they did not understand the true meaning of these traditions and rituals, all this resulted in imitation, which is actually called cargo cult. Scythian Sakas lived according to astronomical calendar. Change of seasons for them was an important event for their universe. So they celebrated winter solstice, that is, birth of a new sun, which Indo-Europeans understood as the birth of Jesus, literally understanding what they saw on frescoes, but not realizing the true meaning of these things. 12 apostles are 12 constellations that sun visits in a year. I can also say that similar logical similarities have been discovered and described by some people. That is, I am not only one who discovered these things. Equilateral cross on frescoes is a symbol of the sun in Scythian Sakas worshipped. Okay, that was a lot. And I responded with a lot. So I tried to be as pithy as I could, and hopefully those of you who are fellow Christians will applaud by the time I'm done. So here we go. Thank you for taking the time to lay out your perspective. I always want to be respectful. It's clear you've been exploring deeply. I'll respond in kind with respect and clarity, even where we differ. First, let's acknowledge a painful truth. You're not wrong to say that Freemasonry and other secret groups have stolen, warped, and mimicked ancient symbols, traditions, and truths. They've done this for centuries, including symbols from Christianity, Judaism, Babylon, Egypt, and yes, the Scythians too. That's how Mystery Babylon operates, by imitating light while concealing a darker current beneath it. But where we disagree is here. Christianity isn't the result of that mimicry. It's the target. The ancient enemy doesn't counterfeit what isn't real. He counterfeits what's dangerous to his kingdom. Evidence speaks louder than theory. There's a mountain, a literal mountain of textual, archaeological, and historical evidence for early Christianity's presence across the Roman Empire, from first century Roman graffiti mocking Jesus to catacombs, martyr records, and coins bearing early Christian symbols predating Constantine by centuries. And then Tacitus, a Roman historian who hated Christians, still records Jesus' execution under Pontius Pilate in his Annals 1544. Then Pliny the Younger, around 112 AD, wrote to Emperor Trajan asking how to handle the growing Christian movement in Bithynia. Ignatius of Antioch, a disciple of John, was writing theology and pleading with churches to hold fast to the faith before 110 AD, while being marched to Rome for execution. This is not mythic allegory. These are legal documents, stone inscriptions, and blood-stained testimonies, not metaphor. On the sun god argument, the claim that Jesus is just a cargo cult sun myth recycled from solstice worship fails under scrutiny. The Gospels never place his birth at the solstice. That date was adopted much later, and Jesus' birth isn't even emphasized in early Christian writings. His death and resurrection are what mattered. I did a whole video on this. I did a whole video on the date of Jesus' birth and how it is not mimicry or copycatting or any of that stuff. I guess I need to do 100 of them before enough people see them so they quit writing things like this. But they still will, I'm sure. The 12 apostles and zodiac, well, the 12 tribes of Israel, which predate Greek astrology, formed the foundations of this typology, not the apostles. I covered this entire thing in a 3-part series referencing the Mazzaroth. Yes, the heavens declare the glory of God, but biblical cosmology sees stars as created beings, not gods or metaphors for agricultural cycles. Anyway, if you want my opinion on the zodiac and the constellations and their decads and planetary movements through them, you can go watch the 3-part series on the Mazzaroth. For some reason, the first part and the third part only have a few hundred views. The second one has like almost 50,000 views. So, which tells me I just don't understand algorithm, and I don't want to study it. I just want to research, write, and put things out there. Some of them hit it out of the ballpark, and some only get 50 views. I don't know why. It just is what it is, I guess. You know, I don't know. Maybe the notifications come in at a bad time. Who knows? So if the early Christians were mimicking solar cults, why were they killed for it by Rome, which already had solar cults like Sol Invictus and Mithraism? So, excuse me, Christianity isn't a cultural imitation, it's a collision. Jesus didn't emerge from foggy folk rituals or solar archetypes. He fulfilled prophecy, he upended religious systems, challenged even the one he was birthed into. He challenged empires and willingly faced death to redeem those under the curse of sin. And millions of people didn't imitate his story, they died for it. Cargo cults don't leave martyrs, truth does. But obviously I respect your right to search. We just ask, who benefits from convincing the world that Jesus is just another symbol? The very powers we both distrust, the Masons, the secret societies, the elite bloodlines, they don't dismiss Jesus, they fear him. And that should make all of us pause for a moment. So, blessings on your search. You're always welcome at the inn, even when the road bends different ways. I would still sit down and have a cup of coffee with you. Yep. Or frosty beverage. So, trying to gain my place back here. I'm going to try trying to do these in sequential order, going back 6 days to the most current ones. Because sometimes I do them out of order and it gets everything screwed up. So trying to go in chronological order. So this is another one on the interview, Tartaria, Satan's Little Season, and Seed War from Wednesday of last week. Why is your channel title missing the L in Pilgrims? You have Pilgrims, LMFAO. It's funny. I didn't even notice that. When I changed the name from our limited liability company, You Will Know. So I just told him, my goodness, you're right, lots left, sorry. Thanks for catching it, corrections coming forthwith. And so I did. I corrected it that very moment. I just thought it was an interesting take. You never know what you're going to get in the comment section. And anyway, Michael, if you're listening, which you're probably not, because I visited your channel and we probably don't have huge amounts of things in common, but that's okay. I'm still glad you came by, and I'm still glad you visited, and I'm still glad you listened, and you took time out of your life to comment, even if it was just to point out I was missing an L, because now I'm not, and it's thanks to you. So, let's see. Here's one on our Rituals of Power, Riots, Lions, and the Rise of the Beast System. Well, that was probably our Friday night episode, top 3 stories of the week. And it is Ritel again. Welcome back. She says, thank you for this roundup. Let's face it, the world is run by psychopaths. Boy, is it ever. But there will come a day when these narcissists will want to die but can't. I'm assuming you're referring to the passage out of Revelation where people will seek death and be unable to find it. And then come, Lord Jesus, blessings to you and your family. Well, blessings right back to you. And yes, at some point, it won't be just the narcissist, but everybody who's willing to take on some. I sometimes wonder if what winds up happening is, as part of the mark of the beast, maybe it's some sort of neural implant, or I don't know, but I have this feeling it's going to connect us to some sort of hive mind, AI, super knowledge. And, you know, it sounds scary at first, but when people see that it possibly allows you to live forever by being able to upload who you are, your consciousness, the ghost in the machine, to the cloud, and then download yourself into something else, a new version of you, fully grown perhaps at whatever age, maybe 20, 30, and so unable to die. You know, maybe we will get to that point where we have replaced the tree of life and live on in some form of no longer human, transhuman type person that has found a way to bypass the tree of life. I don't know. I'm speculating, but isn't that interesting that we literally are almost there with the technology, right? Because whatever they're showing us in public, they're anywhere from 20 to 50 years ahead. So they just roll it out to us thinking we're not ready for it yet. So, and then on our Tartaria video, which is, again, I need to do a new one because the one I did used an AI voice because I was so busy at the time I didn't have time to sit at the mic in my studio and do it. So anyway, I need to revisit this and probably just do my own voice on this and do a new thing altogether. But anyway, he says, "Fight on, dude." This is Paul Astridge, I guess. And anyway, I thought that was great. I will, believe me, Paul, I will fight on. And then he also comments, "Glad to hear the truth. Just subscribed. Great job, dude. Don't stop." I have no plans to. The only thing that would stop me is the knock at the door and then I disappear or die. So that has not happened yet. I have had weird things happen that I won't go into, but it's been mostly on the technical side of things. But it was like really strange things that shouldn't have happened that way. They just did, and I just chalked it up to, you know, quirkiness of software, and maybe that's all it was. So anyway, I don't have a spirit of fear. The worst thing that could happen to me is I die, right? And then I'm with the Lord in his presence. So nothing to lose. Although I would feel sorry for the loved ones I leave behind. So another comment by one of my favorites, Dominic, "Rituals of Power, Riots, Lions, and the Rise of the Beast System." Dominic says, "Thank you for the hard work. I know." The reason, if I'm not mistaken, because my brain is failing me, Dominic is from New Zealand, either New Zealand or Australia, a listener, which I'm just eternally grateful for. And hopefully he's spreading the word of Pilgrims Grey all over New Zealand and Australia. I am seeing followers pick up there. So it's increasing in that area. And that's great. And so Dominic says, "Thank you for the hard work. I know what that's like. God uses a working man. He really does, folks. Everybody's like looking for, what is God's will for my life? What is what am I supposed to do? I pray and God doesn't show me." Well, here's what you do. Do what you're supposed to be doing in life. Just live out your life as a faithful, discerning, wise person, working hard, doing the right things. And that's when God will show you. When you're faithful with smaller things and studying his word, he will incrementally and through a process reveal more and more and more if you're doing your part. But if you're not doing your part, let me ask you this. If you had an employee at work who just was there in a warm body, would you would you promote and show things? And so, no, I mean, so, don't expect God to. We need to do our parts too. So, anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah, God uses a working man. As the old saying goes, trust in the Lord and keep your powder dry. Yes, exactly. That is the combination of working out your salvation with fear and trembling, and yet God is also working in and through you, right? It's both together, synergistically. Not that we're working for salvation or anything, it's just God meant for us to have a relationship, and that relationship and back and forth is praying and doing and listening, right? I mean, even the Hebrew boys said, with no guarantee, by the way, we're not going to worship your dumb statue, and if God wants to save us, just know that he can, and he will if he wants to, but even if he doesn't, we're not doing it. And God chose to save them. Right? The three boys, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. I used to have their original Hebrew names memorized. Those names, the names that they were given by the Babylonians, or the Persians maybe. This is a time. This is Dominic continued. This is a time to be wise, get food and gas, battery packs, because we don't know what can happen. Even a radio that is a battery operated like a tradesman's. Be wise, you men of God. I feel there's a shift in the atmosphere. We're not going back to what was like before. We have been played by Trump. I was sucked in 2016 to all that it was in 2016 to all that it was a good cop, bad cop. Galatians 3:28-29, as men of God, please pray for Iran. My wife is from there. So pray for the people that the Lord will set them free. On the long road, blessings, Dominic, and I love the music. Yeah, a lot of people commented about the new Wednesday night outro, the slow, Middle Earthy, like the dwarves singing to Bilbo about the far over misty mountains old. And so we'll probably leave it on there for some time until somebody comes up with something even cooler, right? So, so that's our Friday night outro now. So thank you, Dominic. And you commented a second time here saying, oh, wait, is that just yeah, okay. I guess your comment accidentally posted twice. It did. For some reason. Not really sure why. All right, so somebody with a foreign country name. Oh, I see. Okay, so this is on our From Cain to the Committee of 300. And he says, LOL, the Nazis are bad because the Jews told us. And then LOL, this is hilarious how you pretend to be based in belief in space and hilarious cartoonish fictions of wartime propaganda. That's literally what it says. So it's maybe the person doesn't speak English as a first language. I don't know. But either way, it's clear it's a mockery, and that's fine. So I just responded, you're mistaking discernment for denial, friend. We question narratives because we do our homework, not because we trade one propaganda stream for another. Mocking doesn't make your version of history true, it just makes it louder. So this isn't about believing the Jews or hating the Nazis, it's about tracing who's really pulling the strings. And if you'd listened longer, you'd know we don't trust any faction at the top of this global machine. We follow the evidence, and that path goes darker than either side of your cartoon takes. Anyway, that was my response. See, I do bite back. All right, and Rebecca, beautiful song. Love the message in it too. Well, so did I. It was really a well done bit. If you ever listen to the words, I mean, it has to do with our show, obviously. A combination of, the fact that we cover 3 stories, and we cover it in light of this being from a biblical filter or Christian filter, and specifically how it relates to the Seed War, because we're, I believe, at the tail end of it. So it's very important to cover these things, to know the foundation of it, the basics of it, what's going on, why it's going on, and what to do about it. Right? And so, as always, thank you very much, Rebecca. Another one on this one. Look, our Lord is able to deliver us, but even if he doesn't, I am not bowing to no beast. You will have to kill me with a heart. Yeah, and that's right on. I responded to that by just saying, Amen, Jonathan. That's the spirit of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego right there. Our God is able to deliver us, but even if he doesn't, that is the kind of faith that shakes kingdoms. And then I told him, you've got a place by the fire here at the inn, brother. Stay watchful, stay unbowed. The road ahead won't be easy, but you're not walking it alone. There's a bunch of us right there with you, Jonathan. Yep. And I appreciate your comment and for being a listener. I have not seen you comment before, but that's awesome. Thank you for doing that. And then we have foreign language here, one that I want to say, again, it's Indonesian. And they were just saying that they love the show, praises and so on. And so I said, thank you for listening. And that was to our Jeremy Stone interview. And then Ritel again, thank you so much for your words. Yes, we stay vigilant until the Lord's return. Yes, that's what we need to do. Definitely stay vigilant, pray for discernment, because remember that Jesus in Matthew 24 said that, or twice he said, let no man deceive you, at the beginning of it and towards the end. And so with that emphasis, deception is clearly a huge part and confusion of what will be noticeable in that last generation. The generation that will see the worst times ever since the flood. So, every living thing in the sea dying is not a big deal. That's pretty huge. So is every island and mountain being moved from its place. Sounds like some pretty catastrophic Earth activity. And that will generate tsunamis globally. And Rebecca again on our Remember the Liberty. Yes, I've never heard this story before. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I was not familiar with it until about a year ago, maybe less than that. I think it might have been. Anyway, I originally heard the story from George Hobbs covering of the Fact Hunter, covering this particular event, and I was so shocked by just how bad it was and how obvious it was, and how these guys got no press whatsoever. So if you are listening right now and you have not heard our podcast on Remember the Liberty, the attack they tried to erase, go right now, go listen to it, and then share it with as many people as you can and get the word out, because I'm concerned they'll try more false flag operations for what's going on right now, just like they did with the Liberty. And it needs to go far and wide. So if you're reading comments about things in X, share this video. Because it's important to remind people that, and when I say this, I'm really not picking on Israel or Jews or anything like that whatsoever, because it's really not them. It's people above their pay grade. People that aren't really a part of any country necessarily, but they run all the countries, and the people you see as prime ministers and presidents are all their lackeys. because they have way more power and money than them, because they are connected directly to bloodlines who are connected directly to those little g gods and all their little adherents that really run the show and are prepping humanity to fight against the one true God at some point by either turning you against him through Gnosticism and other stupidity, and eventually turning you into something that's no longer human, either genetically or through transhumanism. So they will wipe us out either in that way or just literally kill us. Either way, it gets so bad that Jesus has to return, or there wouldn't be any humans left. And that doesn't mean we're all dead. It could just mean the humans that you find left here are no longer human. So, another comment on the USS Liberty, the Jews will do it again. Maybe a carrier this time. People still think they are good. Amazing. Well, I'm not really interested in whether Jews are good or bad, because it's just a whole group of people, and you're always going to have good people and bad people within a group of people. I try never to generalize. And it's really not even the leadership of Israel or America. Again, it's above that. We gotta quit thinking small. With the kind of things and events like this that are going on that are scripted are above these leaders, these popular leaders that they put out in front of you, these cults of personality like Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu or any of them. Doesn't Macron, the weird lefty guy up there in Canada, they're all just avatars for the people who are really in power that you don't even know their names. You might know their bloodline families, but they probably don't even use those names anymore. But they are related. And they just use these leaders and select them and put them in place, and then use their comms out in public, like I've told you in other videos. The black and white checkerboard, certain numbers, certain dates, the number 33, the number 11, the number 93. All these things they use and put in their little shows to communicate to one another, hey, I'm one of you, and this is for you, for us. So, anyway, I thank you so much for listening, and it's good that you're aware of these kind of things, and you're not being fooled by the story they tell us in the press, which is virtually never true. It might be partially true or whatever, but it's never fully true. So, Benjamin on our Satan's Little Season theory debunked. He says, it is hard to find SLS, and that stands for Satan's Little Season, for those who don't know, SLS debunking videos, and every time I do, they're flooded with comments of people defending it. As someone who considers myself blessed with discernment, it seems like astroturfing to me. I'm somewhat on the fence myself. I'm in the process of trying to hear out both sides. Paul Stobbs comes off as controlled op to me. The SLS movement in general seems contrived, and it's not censored at all. Oh, ouch. At all, like other controversial truths, like the shot and the illness and many other things. That's great. Great way to hide it. In fact, SLS seems promoted, albeit stealthy promoted, and precision-focused on free-thinking truthers. I type in Satan's Little Season debunked, and the first few results are pro-SLS. Like I said, I haven't made up my mind yet, but I do strongly feel we're being intentionally led down this eschatology. I responded, but I would say this. You may be onto something there, because that generally is true. The same is true about others things. Like if you look up flat earth and type in a search, you're going to get everything that is anti-flat earth. In fact, they even do put out a controlled op website as one of the first things that'll pop up. You know, that ridiculous one with the floating pancake and the whatever, clearly meant to make anybody who is associated with flat earth look like some crazy person. But, if you dig into these things for yourself and get beyond all of these things and look at it for yourself rather than listening to mainstream media, you're going to find things that you just wouldn't believe. And, well, you would, Benjamin, because clearly you are doing that, and you are digging and researching for yourself and having the attitude of a Berean, where you search the scriptures. And I think if you take in the entire counsel of scripture and examine these things, I think you're going to find that we're not in this little season, but we are waiting. And one of my fears about the little season is that it lends itself to the possibility of being tricked into mistaking the Antichrist for the return of our Messiah, and then taking the new name as the mark. Because why would you be afraid of the mark of the beast as somebody who follows the Satan's little season thing? Because it's already happened, right? It's already taken place. So if there is something that comes along that other people would be saying is the mark of the beast, you wouldn't necessarily care because you already think it happened back in AD 70. And so you'll wind up worshiping the wrong guy and taking a mark you should never have taken. You see what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. And that's just one of the many problems that is a possibility as a result of that belief system. And it lends itself to Arianism also. The Jews have no more place in God's dichotomy, and so they should be gotten away with, there's different belief systems where, Christians who believe we need to, control the 7 mountains of society to bring the Messiah back. And, if there's Jews here still, we can't have that, right? And so I think that's all very dangerous ideology, because I do believe that the Jews, or Israel, are God's chosen people. It doesn't mean that they are saved or going to heaven. That's not what that means. It just means at the time of Babel, when most of humanity was worshiping all the false gods before the flood again, or new ones, right? Because they were trying to reestablish that whole golden age again that they had before the flood. The Lord, came down, confused the languages, and chose one particular group of people through Abram, who later became Abraham, to be his people who would worship him, and he would be their God, so that humanity could learn how he operates with us relationally. That's all it is. That's all being chosen means. It's nothing about their particular anything. It's just God chose this as a method or a means by which he could communicate to humanity certain attributes of his. And many of the laws that are for the Jews are meant specifically for them, not the rest of society, so they could survive in a world where all the other nations would eventually turn against them, because they're one group of people chosen by Yahweh, and all the other rebellious little g gods obviously don't like God anymore and are not going to like the humans that he chose to be a part of his chosen specific group of people, right? So anyway, that is part of the whole seed war anyway, if you've been following us. And so it's an important thing to consider, and it's one of the reasons why Daniel's prophecy about 70 weeks of years, we still have 1 week of years left. That's why God's not done with the Jews yet. Not because they're somehow special. He's just, we are operating in a different system now that is unlike any ever in history, where God literally dwells inside of humans like the temple. Right? So, we're really blessed and part of a very special generation. We should not take that for granted. And then our final comment And this is on our Did Jesus Already Return? Debunking the Little Season Doctrine with Scripture, and so on. This was the LT mixtape thing that I took issue with. And Alan Schutz says, well, now I just unsubscribed because you certainly don't understand eschatology. Shaking my head. Well, I do understand eschatology, and I spent over an hour explaining what I understand about it that contradicts many, many things about the little season theory. So far, I have far more people that agree than disagree, but I mean, you're welcome to do whatever you like, of course. I would prefer you not unsubscribe over one particular issue, but that is life. My comment to him was, that's an interesting way to handle it. Why not just share your views with me, and we can discuss it and see what your thoughts are on it, rather than doing that. I don't understand your reaction. Here's why I don't understand his reaction. I don't agree with LT and his particular view on this, but I don't unsubscribe to LT off one thing like this, because I think in other things he gets it right. Is there anybody on the planet who's got everything 100% nailed down? I don't think so. And so maybe Alan does. And if you have a website, maybe we should all follow you, Alan. All right, so with that being said, and I don't mean that as a slight or an insult, Alan. It's just I've never understood that reaction. Not only was your comment very general and the whole unsubscribing thing, but you didn't explain anything as to why I don't understand eschatology. You just made the statement. You offered no examples, no evidence, nothing. You gave nothing but a head shake. Well, maybe you just didn't have time, right? So a couple of stories that some people sent in, I'm going to share with you, and we'll wrap up. One of them is this breaking story that says the Night Watch, aka Doomsday Plane, the President's Emergency Command aircraft, just landed at the Joint Base Andrews outside Washington, D.C., following a highly unusual flight path from Shreveport, Louisiana. Historically, this aircraft is activated during severe crisis, including military or nuclear threats. Last known presidential use was September 11th, 2001. Potential implications: 1. Best case, prep for U.S. military action on Iran with heightened presidential security. 2. Worst case, anticipation of nuclear escalation in the Middle East. Closely monitoring updates incoming. Interesting. Another one, somebody sent me an email, which I thought was a bizarre story, but here it is. The United States, the United States and Israel signed a contract with aliens to allow them to do experiments on Earth with humans. Trump knows about it. The ETs are waiting for humans to understand what space and spaceships are. They are equally interested in humanity and trying to understand the nature of reality. This is per Haim Eshed, the very respected head of Israel Space Security. How is this not a bigger deal? And then it's an NBC News weird news story where it says that the former Israeli space security chief says extraterrestrials exist, and Trump knows about it. And it says, a galactic federation has been waiting for humans to reach a stage where we will understand what space and spaceships are, Haim Eshed said. Well, here's the thing. Every time I hear this kind of a headline, I think, of course extraterrestrials exist. They were described in the Old Testament. Right? What are angels if not extraterrestrial? I mean, they're not your weird, gangly, big-eyed, necessarily I mean, that might be some of them or whatever. I'm sure they come in different shapes, sizes, and whatever. But we've had both good and bad rebellious angels interacting with humanity for 6,000 years now. Why should today be any different? Anyway, I just find it interesting that now we're calling them something besides rebellious angels or angels. Now we're referring to them as some sort of Star Trekian science fiction angels. Maybe that's easier for people to digest. I don't know. So, and a story here from Clandestine says, "You can panic if you'd like, but Trump's posture and body language has been extremely encouraging. He's not worried at all. He knows he ultimately holds all the cards and that he is in control of the situation. If you don't trust him, that's fine. In 3 years, you can vote for someone else. But until then, he's your commander-in-chief, and we have no choice but to watch how it unfolds. With that being said, there's nobody I'd rather have in this position than Trump, and I trust him to do what's best for the American people. He does not want another endless war." Trump will do whatever the super high-ups that selected him to be in the place that he is in wants him to do. And I know people don't like hearing that, but when you begin to study all of these background groups and realize how much power they have and how nameless they are and what have you, these people who have these positions of power are there because they want them there. And when they don't want them there, they won't be there anymore. They will carry out what they want to carry out, and they play the long game. So, all right, we got just a couple more stories here. Is it possible that the technology of the ancients was so advanced it goes above and beyond ours today? I think absolutely. It was so advanced just centuries after the flood, right? After the flood, Scripture talks about how anything was possible for us, right? Things that we clearly weren't ready for. So God had to put a stop to it before we annihilated ourselves even way back then and did terrible things. And then we have a comment here. Why do you think so many ancient false gates can be found cut into mountains all over the world? I really don't know 100%. I would have to conjecture, just like everybody else, that there are either some sort of portals that are generated by electromagnetic wave energy, frequency, vibration of these, the material they were made out of in some other type of environment, possibly made by sound generation and frequency. But there are definitely people who speak of seeing and experiencing at least spiritual things come in and out of those things. Maybe not visible to the naked eye, but people do discuss it. Maybe I need to do a show on it. Let's see here. I got a couple other stories here. Yes, this one here. This person sent a story that says, "This is proof that you can't just retreat from society and expect them to leave you alone. They'll chase you down, seize or kill your kids, and destroy your life." And it's they posted this thing about Amish controversy. It says, "Court, no vaccine exemption for Amish children. The Amish are fined $118,000. Wow, unbelievable. Just unbelievable. I had one more really long story, but I will save that for next week because we're already going on an hour and the show is really only meant to be 30 minutes. I just get carried away sometimes. So I hope the rest of your work week is great, and I would appreciate it if you enjoy me reading your comments and letting this show on Wednesday nights be all about you and what you've got to say, both good and bad, positive and constructive criticism, or just telling me to stick it or whatever. I'm happy to do it, and I really enjoy it, and I hope you do too. But like and subscribe and keep following, and we will see you Friday night at the Inn again. Pilgrims Grey Chronicles, Robert Clark, your host, signing off.
It's time for listener emails, comments, and stuff they send in. So kick back and listen, it'll make you grin. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, yeah. Central Standard Time, yeah. Central Standard Time, yeah. It's time for listener emails, comments, and stuff they send in.